Are you set?
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I apologize. Lots of times I get ahead of myself. We have some honored guests here. Need no introduction, but first, Matt, I see you sitting in there. If you'd come up and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what your agenda is. I have to confess that Matt's boss and I came into the Senate together, and so we all kind of cut our teeth together. So Matt's a good boy, and I don't mean that with any disrespect. I'm from the country. I call everybody a boy. Going to do a good job for us, and I'm glad to have you here, Matt. But anyway, tell us who you are and what you're going to do.
Stewart and members of the committee. My name is Matt Strickler. Governor Northam has appointed me to be his Secretary of Natural Resources. Looking forward to getting started. I have a personal and professional background in this kind of work. I grew up in Lexington, Virginia, out in the James River Valley, and always loved the outdoors. But my family's from Virginia Beach, so I kind of migrated down the coast and went to Virginia Institute of Marine Science for graduate school. Did some research there in coastal management and shellfish aquaculture before getting moving from the lab back into policy work. As the chairman alluded to, I worked for then State Senator Northam when he was here for 4 sessions and the better part of 4 years, where I got to staff him on this committee. And a number of others. More recently, I've been working on the House Natural Resources Committee, staffing members of Congress on a wide range of fisheries, coasts, oceans, public lands, and wildlife issues for the last 5.5, 6 years. So Washington, as you can imagine, has been a trying experience, but I'm looking forward to being back in Richmond and working with you all to get some good things done. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Matt, you're going to enjoy it in Richmond a lot more, I can assure you. And we look forward to having you in the committee. We hope you'll come often and give your input on bills.
Yes, sir.
I know you've got a breadth of experience. And finally, the only other thing I would say about Matt is he's a pretty fair fisherman. And that counts for a lot in my book. So
thank you, sir.
Matt, thanks for coming. And then we've got Bettina Ring as well, and she's our new Secretary of Ag. And we would love to have you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourself, too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Good afternoon. My name is Bettina Ring, and I have been appointed by Governor Northam to serve as Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry, and I'm humbled and honored by the opportunity. Many of you knew me as State Forester, working with the Virginia Department of Forestry most recently. And so I come to this position with state government experience and a strong forestry and natural resources background, but a love and passion for agriculture as well. I started my career with the Department of Forestry. I'm a Virginia Tech grad, very proud of that. Studied forestry and started in the field with the Department of Forestry a number of years ago, and then moved up to the headquarters office overseeing our urban and community forestry program, working with urban communities across the state to make sure we were doing all that we could to expand their capacity in taking care of their trees and their open spaces in those communities. And then actually went back to our central region as regional forester to gain some more operational experience before being selected by then State Forester Jim Garner to be his deputy state forester for 6 years. So I spent a lot of time in Richmond with Jim and learned quite a bit from him at that time. I decided to go west for a while and get some nonprofit organization experience serving with the Colorado Coalition of Land Trusts, where I worked with the Cattlemen's Ag Land Trust and a number of ranchers to help continue to promote agriculture in that state and to conserve the important ag lands there. And then on to California, where I worked with the Bay Area Open Space Council as the director, working with public and nonprofit organizations, again, from Marin Agricultural Land Trust to Small Land Trust, really working with smaller farmers in Marin County to the East Bay, where we were working with ranchers to continue to practice good private land stewardship. And then, when it's time to come home, and I had the good fortune to come back in 2012 to work with the American Forest Foundation to oversee the tree farm program. When you see the green and white signs when you drive down the road, that program supports small landowners across the nation in making sure they manage their lands in a sustainable way, but that they also have the financial and tax incentives to be able to do so, and that they have tools in their toolbox to continue to be good stewards. And that will be very much a part of what I do, working with both farmers and forest landowners moving forward in the next 4 years. And then I had the good fortune to come back home to the Department of Forestry when Governor McAuliffe appointed me as state forester in 2014. And so it's been a real privilege to serve the Commonwealth, and I'm excited about this opportunity to serve as secretary. I do come from a very rural community. I grew up in Craig County. For those of you that may not know it all that well, it's near Roanoke, Virginia. We have 5,000 in my home county and no stoplights, which we're very proud of. But I grew up next door to my grandparents and have family members with a very strong land ethic that they instilled in me, and fell in love with trees and forestry, with farming and gardening at a young age. And that's been in my roots and in my body and my soul since then, as a young age, as a child. And so fortunate to be able to bring that to this position. I look forward to working with all of you to continue the good work of the Secretariat, the work that's been done previously, certainly Secretary Haymore, all that he did to elevate ag and forestry products and recognition of that and promotion internationally and domestically, and Secretary Gooden. And so I look forward to doing that and getting out in the field as much as I can when we get through session to learn all that I can possibly learn, and to make sure that I'm addressing any issues or concerns that you may have. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, we appreciate you coming and welcome you here. I hope I'll see a lot of you. Just as we said to Matt, we appreciate your input and we value it in this committee. So please come back as often as you can, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think we've also got Deputy Secretary of Natural Resources back there in the back. Angela, and if you just want to introduce yourself, because people are going to see your face as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Angela Navarro, Deputy Secretary of Natural Resources. I've been in this position since 2015, so worked with many of you in the past, but look forward to continuing to be of service to the Commonwealth and answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Okay, as a housekeeping matter, Senator Lewis, I think you had Senate Bill 696 and you wanted to pass that by for the week. All in favor passing that by for the week, please say aye.
Which bill are we passing by?
Senate Bill 696.
Is that the cap and trade one?
I think you could call it cap and trade.
Wanted to make sure.
I think you could refer to it that way. I don't think Senator Lewis refers to it that way. He asked for another week on that one. So all in favor to pass that by for the week, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 729 with Senator DeStefan. I don't see him in here, but we need to re-refer that one to the Courts Committee. It's actually creating a Class 6 felony. You want to do it on the board? Okay. Clerk, open the roll. Motion is to send that to courts. Report that, close that vote and report it.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, and then we've got Senate Bill 588, Senator Eben. It's been suggested to me that that should actually go to rehabilitation and social services since it's dealing with alcohol.
Yes, sir.
All right, can I have a motion for that?
Second.
All right, motion properly seconded to re-refer that to rehabilitation and social services. Clerk, please open the roll.
10 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. Senator Ruff, if you would take. I'm sorry. Got one real quick one to do, and that's it. I'm going to exercise the chairman's prerogative and take up Senate Bill 567 since I've got to go to another committee and present another bill. So, Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 567 is actually Senator Obenshain's bill, but I'm a co-patron, as are many in this committee and others. And I'll tell you a little bit about it, and then there is a short line amendment we'd like to have reported. Basically, there were some creative attorneys in other part of the country who have found ways to get at the Right to Farm Act. And as you all know, the Right to Farm Act in Virginia is a very important protection to our agricultural community, so that if you have a hog farm, people don't sue you for nuisance. Or if you got cattle or something like that, they can't sue you for a nuisance as long as you follow best management practices. Well, as oftentimes you'll find these lawyers who find holes in things and they create a cottage industry. I'm not looking at you for any reason, Senator Lewis. Cottage industry at going after certain areas. They discovered one with some of these small growers, and it's created issues and potentially could really injure the folks in our agricultural community. So what this bill does is it tightens up our Right to Farm Act. It tries to help us protect our farmers against these folks who are trying to create a new avenue to file nuisance suits. And, Mr. Chairman, there is a short line amendment if staff could report that.
On line 49.
On line 49, after the word void, strike the remainder of line 49 and all of line 50. So just strike that last sentence.
It was duplicative, essentially, Mr. Chairman. It was just duplicative language, and we only needed it once.
Okay.
And so, Mr. Chairman, that's the bill. I will attempt to answer any questions.
Let's deal with this amendment before we do
Thank you.
anything else.
Move the amendment.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in support of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Okay. All right, that is part of the bill now. Go ahead.
If anyone has any questions, I will do my best to answer. If not, I think I got help in the room, potentially.
Senator Abbott.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I believe I support the bill. I just did have one question. If, say that you live next to a animal processing plant, and you didn't know that, you knew that you were moving in next to it, but it's doing something that all along, like some kind of waste or something's being put into your property, that's not a best management I mean, you'd still be able to stop that, right?
Yes, this
Collect
covers,
damages.
this covers farmers who are practicing best management practices, which wouldn't include dumping waste on your neighbor's property.
Thank you.
Senator Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Stewart, as I remember when the Right to Farm Act came up, some of the issues surrounding that were kind of a local government issue versus what farmers had a right to do. And there was talk of, people throwing events on weekends that clogged up roads and did things that were that the local government didn't approve of. And if somebody's business model, is to every weekend have a big birthday party with blow up things for kids to jump up and down on and what have you, and there's a lot of traffic being created by it, would that be part of this, or is it strictly agricultural activities?
We are not dealing with that part of that. I mean, I guess theoretically, under the Right to Farm Act, you could protect the right to have a birthday party on your farm. But that's not what this is geared at. This is geared at actual agricultural use and the inability to sue them for a nuisance for that use. So no, we're not affecting that portion.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
a simple part of it.
Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition to Senate Bill 567?
You got a line of support.
I'm aware of that, and I'm trying to avoid that line of support unless they really feel compelled to speak. Hearing no opposition, is there a motion?
Move to report. Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Record your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
10 ayes, 0 nays.
That bill is reported. Senator Stewart, back to you.
I see you in the audience.
Mr. Chair, I've got Senate Bill 675. I've got some amendments to it, but let me tell you about the bill first. The bill exempts from inspections by the by VDOCs, private homes where the residents processing and preparing yogurt with a pH of 4.6 or lower. Now, the amendments I've got will require that yogurt be pasteurized, be made from pasteurized milk at home, but it will require, instead of milk coming from somewhere else, it will allow the homeowner or the person that's making the yogurt to raise the temperature to 165 and pasteurize it. And so I'd offer those amendments if I could.
You want to report those amendments, please?
Mr. Chairman, there are 3 line amendments. The first one starts on line 43. After the word lower, insert, and that was made from milk that has been heated to a minimum temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit.
And then there are a couple other amendments, and they're.
So can I ask a question about that, Senator Dees,
Sure.
first? So does that mean pasteurized milk?
Well, that's what they have to do to pasteurize the milk. They take it to 165 degrees. That doesn't mean they're bringing in milk from they're bringing in milk from other sources. It's still a product that they're making it from their milk, or the milk that they produced on the farm.
Okay.
Shall I?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The other amendment, basically, other amendments ensure that this is just a small, we're talking about small producers. We're not talking about big operations.
So the second line amendment, Mr. Chairman, on line 46, after the word commerce, insert the word and then on line 49, after the word panel, strike and number 6, not exceeding $3,000 in gross sales in a calendar year. So strike out that last Romanet.
Now, Mr. Chair, I've always been for the little guy, and I've always been for people that want to make their own decisions about the food they produce and the food they consume, and I think that these amendments ensure that we're not talking about Dannon yogurt. We're talking about people that make yogurt at home and try to market small amounts of it.
Okay. Any questions of Senator Deeds? Committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Black.
I really appreciate this. For some reason, institutionally, we have always tended to just really put the screws on all these little places that, they just have some little business deal, or maybe it's not even at the level of a business, but we put the screws on them, and I appreciate you putting this in.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Any questions of Senator Deeds?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Marsden.
Thank you. Senator Deeds, generally speaking at farmers markets and what have you, is there a general awareness or is it posted that, these things are, homemade products and not coming through a USDA kind of?
I think that's part of the appeal. Mm-hmm. Some people want things that are natural, and I think certainly if the committee's desire is to put an amendment on here that says that if it's marketed, it has to be labeled as uninspected and eat at your own risk, that makes perfect sense to me. I think the people ought to have that right to make their own decisions about what they eat.
I would so move.
Staff understand what Senator Marsden is offering. He wants a label that it's homemade and uninspected. What else?
That would, I think, suffice. Just full disclosure to people.
I don't have a problem with that amendment.
It's already in the bill. Okay. Senator Evan.
Yeah, I would ask Senator Deeds, are there examples of other food products, I might have missed this in your testimony, I was reading ahead. Did you already give examples of other food products that aren't inspected?
Well, there are things, and I'm not sure if it's in this section or not, but there are other, there are certainly other things that are processed, like pickles and other items. I'm not sure if it's in this code section.
We've got bake sales and stuff.
Look up and beginning on line 20.
Private homes, popcorn.
Where they're talking about things that don't have to be inspected.
And if I could just follow up,
Senator Evan.
I don't see these things like dry pasta, roasted coffee, as many of them as being potential health hazards. So that just gives me a little pause. Dry mixtures and nuts and cereals, that sort of thing.
Mr. Chair, Senator Evan, I want to be perfectly upfront. This is the first one that involves dairy product, as far as I know.
Yeah.
This would be the first exemption involving a dairy product.
Okay, and did you have the goat milk bill, or was that someone else's, or unpasteurized milk? Years ago, we had that.
I've probably carried goat milk bills before. I know my name's been associated with one or two.
Okay, thank you. I'm just on the fence here, so I just want to make sure I have it right. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, one more.
Senator
I'm
Mason.
sorry, Senator Deeds, but I was trying to track the last amendment on line 49. Do you strike the not exceeding $3,000 in gross sales in a calendar year?
That's what I
So
thought.
you remove the ceiling?
That's what it does, yes, sir.
Thanks, sir.
So
it goes from the little guy to the big guy, right?
I still don't think, still don't think you're talking about, I'm not sure what limit would you be comfortable with, but I still think we're talking about the little guy.
Senator Deeds, nobody else has, I have one quick question. I'm a lawyer, I can't help but ask this question.
Sure.
Do they have to have any liability insurance if somebody gets a severe illness and a kid dies?
I think it would
from
certainly
eating
be in their interest to have liability insurance. But, even a person that drives a vehicle on a highway doesn't have to have liability insurance. He just has to pay a fee to the DMV. So there are a lot of people that probably ought to have it, they don't.
But this bill doesn't require it.
I don't think it does, no.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any witnesses, Senator Deeds?
I think there are people here that are interested both for and against, yes.
All right, let's put 3 minutes on the clock for each side, and if we could have the folks who support it first.
Hi, my name is Anne Buteau. I am president of Virginia Independent Consumers and Farmers Association. There's some history behind this bill. In 2008, it was against the law to sell a loaf of bread to your neighbor without having your kitchen inspected. We spent 5 years coming down here until 2013, 2014. That year, after 5 years of lobbying, pickles and relishes were added to the kitchen bill, what is called. We were told that people are going to be dying of botulism. It's extremely dangerous. Pickles are dangerous. Since then, nobody has been made sick by homemade pickles. The dairy, this is not a raw product. This is a pasteurized product, therefore generally recognized as safe. The acidification process reduces the pH to the same pH as in the pickles, which inhibits growth of molds and unwanted bacteria. The purpose of this bill is to increase the range of products that people can make in their homes. This is a bill for towns, cities, countryside, because it's not designated only for the farmers. The kitchen bill, anybody can make use of this bill, and it's a way for other people to get an extra income stream. There have been no cases of foodborne illness attributed to homemade yogurt since 1998 on the records of the Center for Disease Control. There's 0 cases of homemade yogurt food poisoning. The only case was Chobani yogurt in Great Falls, Idaho, where a bunch of people were made sick, and that was probably attributed to the addition of fruit, which introduced the mold to the yogurt. This bill is for pure yogurt, nothing added. It's been made successfully since biblical times. The limit, $3,000 is not a great limit. If you sell it for like $6 a quart, that's still a small amount of yogurt. People who use this exemption are starting off tiny, tiny businesses. I'm one of them. I sell pickles, and I've given pickles over the years to many people here. Make granola. It would be really nice to be able to make yogurt and sell it. I think the objections are to do with the pasteurization issue. And pasteurization, I'm told by some people, is more than just the heat treatment. It's the whole grade A dairy sanitation process, etc. If you have one cow and you want to make some value-added product, you cannot financially build a dairy to meet those criteria. And this is a small artisanal product, a chance for some people to make some money, some extra money. And if you grow bigger, then great. As far as liability, I personally now have liability insurance because we sell pork. We are homestead farmers. We are low income. I work with horses. I got liability insurance because I thought I should get some, just because, you know. But it's not on the bill. It's not compulsory. It should be up to the person.
We allow 3 minutes on each side, and you've run over, but if you want to just
Okay.
wrap up, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so
Just real quickly.
this bill would benefit.
You support the bill.
Oh, we support the bill.
Thank you.
Totally support. Was that wrapping up?
There may be somebody else who'd like to support,
Okay.
say they supported it
All
too.
right.
And if you just want to, at this point, come up and
Thank you.
put up your hand and say, I support the bill, because we're out of time? Perhaps not. Okay, if there's anybody, thank you.
Is there anybody else in?
Oh, the Tea Party Federation of Virginia supporting this bill.
Okay.
If it makes a difference.
Is there any opposition to this bill? We'll give the same. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Dr. Charlie Broad, State Veterinarian and Director of the Division of Animal and Food Industry Services at the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. At VDAX, we endeavor to balance our support for farmers and other food producers and processors with the obligation to ensure that the food is safe for consumption, which in turn supports the overall agriculture and food production industry. We also appreciate and support the right of an informed adult to make decisions about the food they consume. It is this independent spirit that's helped make the U.S. the leader in worldwide food production, and it's through partnerships with organizations like ours that has likewise resulted in the safest food supply in the world with one of the lowest rates of foodborne illness. With strong respect for the rights of the individual to make decisions about the food they want to eat, we must keep in mind the young, the elderly, pregnant women, and those with compromised immune systems who may unknowingly consume a risky product or not be aware of the risks. We oppose the sale of uninspected yogurt for the following reasons. Milk and milk products such as yogurt are potentially hazardous food products that are capable of causing serious foodborne illness if not processed properly. During the preparation and storage of many food products, especially potentially hazardous foods such as yogurt, specific procedures and controls must be adhered to in order to ensure those foods are safe for consumers. Secondly, state and federal food safety laws and regulations have been enacted over the years in order to control the exposure of consumers to unsafe food products that can contribute to serious foodborne illnesses and death. VDAX believes that allowing the sale of potentially hazardous foods such as yogurt to consumers with no inspectional oversight, and now without the limit of 3,000 up to any limit to ensure the product is produced safely, would increase the level of consumer health risk. A recent survey by the Department of Health revealed that no other states allow the sale to consumers of yogurt produced in home-based settings without any inspectional oversight. In consultation with the Attorney General's office, we also have several code-related concerns with the bill that we'll be glad to detail if interested. In conclusion, we genuinely support the contention that an informed adult ought to be able to make decisions about the food they eat. However, the risk with improperly processed yogurt is real, especially for children, the elderly, pregnant women, and the immunocompromised, and it is for those reasons that we oppose the uninspected production for sale of high-risk products such as yogurt.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman. Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Senator. Doctor, is one, for us non-informed folks, 165 the standard temperature for pasteurization?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is that easy to accomplish?
It's not too difficult. In the production process for yogurt, that temperature is actually raised above that point, typically in the production of yogurt.
Is anyone in Virginia making yogurt at this time?
Not uninspected and for sale like this. There are larger companies that are making it under inspection by the Virginia Department of Health.
But they're using, what kind of standards are they using?
They're using pasteurized milk or pasteurizing it in the process of manufacturing that yogurt and producing it according to or under inspection from the health department.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of the witness? Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Alan Knapp with the Department of Health. Also opposed to the bill. I think Dr. Broadus did a nice job of explaining the reasons, and I'll keep it brief. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Eric Paulson with the Virginia State Dairymen Association. We're a member organizations representing dairy farmers in Virginia since 1907. We're opposed to this bill. It's impossible for a consumer to determine if any potential issues with yogurt they may be buying from a site. You don't know if it has any E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria, Campylobacter. The process of pasteurization is both a time and a temperature. So usually a lot of the yogurt, they heat 180 degrees for 20 minutes. That's usually the standard for yogurt. So for these, and the pasteurization also does not take care of if there's any issues with antibiotics or any other problems. Pasteurization is only for pathogens. For these reasons, we oppose the bill.
Thank you. And I see we've run out of time, but if you just want to stand up and say who you're with and if you oppose the
Absolutely.
bill.
Jonathan Harding with the Virginia Agribusiness Council. We oppose the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all see if you can get my mic working. I'm not sure what
Stephanie Kitchen with Virginia Farm Bureau. We also oppose the bill.
Thank you.
Amy Perrin-Sabert on behalf of the Virginia chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and we're opposed to the bill as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Deeds.
But the Tea Party is for this bill. Now, you have to weigh that against all these interest groups and lobbyists. You got to weigh what's really important to Virginia.
Is that your closing comment?
This is about choice, adults making their own choices, and it's about people trying to make a living off the ground, off their farm, or if they want to produce milk or buy unpasteurized milk and pasteurize it. The only thing different about this process and the process that takes place in a plant is inspection. These people are going to pasteurize their milk, and they're going to have that warning label. This is an uninspected product. So it's about people. It's about choices. I'd ask you to pass the bill.
Thank you, Senator Deeds. Committee acts on motion. Can we get a motion on the amendments first? Second. Motion properly seconded to adopt the amendments as reported.
Mr. Chairman, would you refresh it? Amendments.
Could you re-report those amendments, please?
The amendments basically take out the $3,000 limit, and if you wanted to put another limit in and report and amend the bill, I'd be open to that.
And it includes that you have to heat the
requires
milk
the
to
165 degree
degrees.
pasteurization. That's essentially what the amendments do. There are three of them.
That's sufficient. Those were the two amendments.
Yeah.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye for the amendments. Opposed, no. All right. I think the ayes have it. All right. The bill's before us.
Second.
Motion properly supported to report the bill. Clerk, please open the roll.
Four ayes, 8 nays.
Sorry, Senator Deeds.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Find out who my friends are.
Senator DeSteph. Let's see. We re-referred one of yours to the Courts Committee, which was enhancing a penalty.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
And then, but you've still got
Senate Bill
571?
571, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Let's hear from Senate Bill 571.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this bill was brought to my attention based on a situation in Virginia Beach, but not an isolated situation in Virginia Beach, a situation all over Virginia. So I'm going to walk you through just one quick instance of what happened. December 2nd, 2016, Blue was brought into the Manhattan location of animal control centers in New York City as a surrender after he bit a resident child in the home, in the thigh and in the buttocks. December 8th, 2016, a behavior assessment was done and said that the dog had become defensive and aggressive and had an issue. December 17th, the dog was put on New York City's kill list. December 19th, the representatives from Animals Can't Talk Rescue picked up Blue from the shelter, transported him to a foster home in New York City. December 19th, Blue remained in the foster home in New York City. During this time, he was treated for pneumonia. While in foster care, he bit the resident teenager on the arm while the teen was playing a video game. Bite number 2. February 2017, paperwork to transfer Blue from Animals Can't Talk to Forever Home Rehabilitation Center in Virginia. One day later, and during this time, the one day he was in while he was in the foster care in New York City, Blue had bite number 2 and 3 in a foster home, a child and a teenager in that foster home. So that's bite number 3 and 4. February 5th, 2017, the next day, Blue was transferred to a home in Forever Rehabilitation Center in Virginia. One day later. April 22nd, Blue was being adopted out. The next day at 6 o'clock. The next day, on the 23rd, Blue began snapping and lunging at the owner. She texted the rehabilitation center. Later that evening, so less than 6 hours later, Blue is being brought back to the rehabilitation center for biting her adult cousin, bite number 5. The next day, Blue was picked up, returned to the facility. The bite was not reported to Virginia Beach Animal Control. He was just returned to the facility. So less than a month later, Linda Patterson goes into the rehabilitation center, met Blue for the first time. On the 28th, Linda Patterson fills out an application process. Then on the 31st at noon, Ms. Cochran and another employee bring Blue to Ms. Patterson's residence. Ms. Patterson, her mother, Margaret Colvin, were sitting in the chair in the living room. This is at noon, with her own dog, Jack. Jamie Cochran explained to Ms. Patterson how the electronic dog training collar worked when it was used on Blue. Around 7 o'clock that evening, they walked outside with Mrs. Patterson walked outside with the dogs. Mrs. Colvin locked the back door. So the grandmother locked the back door to the residence while Mrs. Patterson was out with the 3 dogs. Mrs. Patterson then heard her grandmother yelling for help because she had fallen. Mrs. Patterson decided to break the glass on the back door and go inside to help her grandmother. Blue appeared to get a little agitated and anxious when the glass was broken and she's yelling to her mom. Blue runs ahead of Mrs. Patterson, standing over Miss Colvin, and when Mrs. Patterson walked into the bedroom, Mrs. Colvin yelled at the dog to get off of her. At this time, the dog attacked her for at least 5 minutes repeatedly, gripping and shaking her head. Mrs. Patterson, as a mother, continued to scream at Blue and tried to pull her off, at which point Blue started going after the mother. Again, this all happened within 8 hours of the dog being there. So this is bite 6 and 7.
Senator DeStefano, I think we got the point. Have you got a cure for that?
I do, but let me just wrap up in 10 seconds on this.
10
the end
seconds.
was Miss Colvin passed away. Mrs. Patterson had her arm amputated. So our cure to this is basically, Mr. Chairman, our cure to this is basically saying that if a dog has a bite history, that it's reported, and it's reported when you go to adopt the dog. And if it's not reported, like Mrs. Patterson, it was not reported to her about the bite history, and what was reported was the dog seemed to get anxious. And at the time, the dog had already bitten 5 people. So our way to solve this is if a dog has a bite history, then it has to be reported, and it has to be told when the dog is being provided. We have an emergency alert system going on, Mr. Chairman. Just want to give you a heads up of that. Natural gas leak.
I guess somebody will tell us to leave if we need to.
I assume so. So we do put a, yeah, there you go. We should be okay. So, Mr. Chairman, on this, we do put a $1,000 penalty just to ensure that this is done and it's done right. Now, up until yesterday, and I checked earlier this week, and I didn't see it, there were no financial impacts. As of yesterday, VDAX put a financial impact on this. All we're asking VDAX to do is put another box or two on their report and say the dog does or does not have a bite history on the VDAX report. I don't believe that should be an $86,000 financial impact, but in the case of Miss Patterson and her grandmother, what's an arm and what's a life worth? I think it's worth more than $86,000, but I can't see how you would get to an $86,000 financial impact on this one. So I'm really excited to hear from VDAX on how they got there.
Senator Stefford, I read the bill. It requires for a report to be made by
That's
certain
correct, Mr. Chairman.
individuals, and I get what you're doing. I support what you're trying to do. I'm a little concerned about assessing $1,000 against a person unless their report is done properly. I don't know if there's a better way to go about it, but.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
So
that's
if they
just
make
if
the
it's not disclosed, it's a $1,000 fine.
Okay,
So
if
if
they
the
make
bite
the
history is
report,
not disclosed, then there would be that fine.
well, that was my question. If they make the report, to whom do they disclose it? Is there a
And
central registry that you give it to so that this information can be discovered when you need to? How do we know that this dog has done this?
Mr. Chairman, on that, I'm going to invite a friend. I'm going to call a friend on this one. It would be the adopter or the transfer agency, but I'm happy to have a friend help me on this because
You want some
I am
help
not the
from your
subject
witness?
matter
Yes,
expert.
ma'am. Please help him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Sharon Quillen Adams, Director of the Virginia Alliance for Animal Shelters. We call this bill the Ask Tell Bill. Currently, this bill requires that all releasing agencies ask when an animal is presented to them whether or not the animal has a bite history. Most of our members, our 201 members, already do that. The health department has asked us for years to ask if an animal has bitten because of rabies concerns. So this simply reinforces that all releasing agency, in this case we had a rescue, we have cases all across Virginia that are SPCA's, Humane Societies, and rescues. This makes everyone ask the question, does this animal have a bite history? Yes, no, that's the box. Place for
And there's a way to get that information.
Yeah, you're asking the person who's bringing you the animal. They are surrendering the animal to you. So you're asking that person, does this animal have a bite history? In this case, it would have been any one of 5 entities here. And you then disclose that yes, no to any adopter or transfer agency that you are transferring that animal to. So another box, in terms of inspections by VDAX, did you advise the adopter or the transfer agency that this animal has a bite history, yes or no? So we have 2 boxes on the existing custody report. We ask all sorts of things on that report that's inspected, weight, breed, any number of things. This simply expands that existing question to remove the 10-day period to say, does the animal have a bite history?
Okay.
And furthermore, just because most folks do this, we feel very strongly that it is a protection, A, to the shelter or rescue taking in the animal, because they ask the question, then they know how to best manage the animal safely. It's a public health issue because that person adopting the animal or to whom it's being transferred is given that information. So this is a public health, public safety bill more than anything. And again, 2 boxes, 1 statement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions of Senator DeSteff on the committee? There are no questions. Do you have folks that you'd like to have speak in support?
We do, Mr. Chairman, and let me just follow up with, I wanted to make sure everybody understands it's not an isolated incident. We've had similar things in Lynchburg, Richmond, Fairfax County, Fairfax, Fluvanna, so truly all over the state. So with
Thank
that, I know we have some folks to speak in favor
All
of
right, can you
this.
put 3 minutes on the clock, please?
Again, Mr. Chairman, Sharon Quillen Adams, Virginia Alliance
I
for
thought
Animal
you just
Shelters.
spoke in favor of it.
I thought you might have forgotten. We strongly support this bill. We have been discussing this bill for actually a couple of years. There are cases, as the senator has said, all across Virginia. I do want to say very clearly, 100,000 animals are adopted from shelters every year. 50,000 of them dogs. 99.99% of them are fabulous. But it is incumbent on those of us in the sheltering animal business that the public trust what we're doing. And disclosure and truth are important aspects of trust. And so we don't want to penalize those 99% of dogs by the implication that somehow shelters keep this information to themselves and don't disclose. So we think this is an extraordinarily important bill. And back to the financial impact, we support VDACs. If they need more resources, we support that. We hate to see this number sort of hung on this bill because it's such an important bill. And as Senator DeStef said, what's a life worth? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one quick question, or two, actually?
Senator Mason.
So you pick up a stray and you don't know. Is there a
Yes,
box
sir.
for you
When
don't
say
know?
You don't know, right.
Second question, Mr. Chairman.
Senator
Animal
Mason.
control picks up a stray and the dog doesn't want to go and seems to lunge at him and act as if it's going to bite him. What's the answer to the question?
The
Yes
answer
or-
is, well, wants to bite him or bit him?
Or, I've never been in that situation, but went after him, does
Well,
that?
there's a difference.
All right, so
Having been on the
bit
receiving
is yes, went after him, it's no.
Correct.
No.
Correct.
Thank you.
But what you hope is, again, the important is to have the conversation. And we've always had, in the shelter I was involved with for 22 years, we always had the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anyone else who'd like to speak in support?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Kathy Strauss. I'm here on behalf of the Virginia Animal Control Association. We strongly support and have worked very hard on the language of this bill. VDACs currently asks us to collect information pertaining to 7 different items on every animal intake record. This is one more item in the interest of public safety. So we hope you will support this bill. We don't want to see any more 5-year-old children bitten in the face, any more maulings of constituents, any more fatalities of elderly women. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bob Mathias, City of Virginia Beach, we support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Please come up.
I'm Sharon Hutchins with the Virginia Federation of Dog Clubs and Breeders. We strongly support it.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Are there those with a contrary view? Anybody who wants to speak in opposition? Should have asked that first. It's got to go to finance. Yeah. Motion properly seconded to report the bill and re-refer to Senate Finance. Clerk, would you please open the roll? Good job, Senator DeStef.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much. Have a great day.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. Senator Ruff, I think you've got one you need to. Senate Bill.
Senate Bill 741.
741.
This bill deals with the
Looking for me.
stormwater approvals. And before I begin, I'd like to ask that a amendment be made to line 13, after shall, strike advise, and insert recommend to. On line 13, after shall, strike advise, and insert recommend to.
Okay.
And that is
Everybody have that?
That is a request to DEQ.
Is there a motion on the amendment? Motion properly seconded to amend the bill as described by Senator Ruff. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, this bill is before you at the request of one of my counties, and there were concerns about how quickly approvals were being moved through the system. We worked with DEQ in trying to find some resolution to the issue. I don't think DEQ has any problem with the way it's written. It gives a time frame. It gives a clock for people to watch, and but it does not jam up anybody, I don't think.
And so essentially what happens is if these permits remain open, people remain on the hook for certain things. It can slow down the schedule of other things that need to come later, and you're just trying to provide some guidelines or some resolution to that issue.
Yes, and in all reality, probably half of the problems are, or maybe 3/4 of the problems are from the counties and their staff. But at least everybody understands that DEQ can't sit on them and wait.
Okay. Any questions of Senator Ruff? Senator Ruff, you have anybody like to speak for it?
I doubt seriously, but if they want to, they
Is there any opposition? DEQ have a position, or should I not even ask? DEQ doesn't have a position. Probably in good shape then. All right, committee operates on a motion. Motion properly seconded to report the bill. This doesn't have to go to finance, does it? I don't think. No. Clerk, please open the roll. Oh, that's my junk over there, sorry.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Senator Ruff. We don't have any patrons that are not on the committee. You know what, Senator Lewis, let's let you go. We've got a lot of folks in the room. They may be here for the same issue as last time. You want to go on and do Senate Bill 217 first?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if I can. Actually, Mr. Chairman, if I can go ahead and do somewhat out of order. Senate Bill 265. That's the cabinet level position.
The only reason I suggest you do 217 is because it looks like a lot of people in here maybe who are concerned with it.
Well, there are, but I got a lot of people here for
All
that
right,
one too.
we'll go to 265 then.
Strength in numbers, Mr. Chairman.
And I just will remind everybody that if the committee is inclined to support this bill, it needs to go to Senate Finance.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 265 deals with the establishment of a coastal Secretary Cabinet level position for coastal resilience and flooding. And as you can tell by the language of the bill, it's important for consolidating into a single office. It provides that the Secretary shall be the lead and identify sources of funding. They're the three big issues at work here. It's no secret that Hampton Roads is one of the largest population centers, first or second, in the entire country that is endangered by flooding, recurrent flooding, and sea level rise. I think it's important, and that was further demonstrated recently, as you will recall, by Moody's in their review of our bond rating, pointing out that it's an issue that they're keeping their eye on. I think it is important for us to demonstrate a seriousness of purpose about this issue and a commitment, which establishing this cabinet level position will do. It is no secret, as I said earlier, that we are such an endangered or threatened population by a sea level rise. So if you're a business looking to locate here, if you're a business looking to expand here, and even more importantly, perhaps, if you're the military and there is an opportunity to deploy additional resources here, or there's a base realignment issue as we've had in the past, one thing you're certainly going to look at is how the Commonwealth and the locality are dealing with the issue of recurrent flooding, sea level rise. It impacts quality of life, it impacts public safety, and for those reasons, it also impacts economic development. This position is also important because it provides one-stop shopping for localities as they seek to coordinate, particularly in the Hampton Roads area, their approach to the threats posed by sea level rise. It's become apparent throughout the hearings that we've had on the study committee that's been established to deal with recurrent flooding, chaired by Senator Locke and by Delegate Stolley, that this is a necessary step forward for the Commonwealth, and it's one of the things that we've recommended in our legislative package for this year and also for last year as well. There are going to be a number of folks here who want to speak in favor of this. I'd like to point out some of them from these organizations. The Hampton Roads Regional Planning District Commission, this is one of their top priorities. City of Norfolk, City of Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads Chamber, and also the Hampton Roads Commercial Real Estate folks were also in support of this. I would point out that there is, as the chairman indicated, it has to go to finance. There is a budget amendment that has been submitted to support the establishment of this secretariat. This also, I would point out, may also help us in accessing federal dollars, which would be very important in leveraging for infrastructure improvements and other efforts to deal with recurrent flooding. So that's it in a nutshell, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Senator Lewis, you have folks that would like to speak?
Yes, sir, I do.
Then have
They
your
could
folks
come
come
up.
on up. We can put a little bit of time on the clock.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Craig Quigley.
I'm a retired Navy Rear Admiral, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Hampton Roads Military and Federal Facilities Alliance. We speak in support of this bill. The sea level rise issue is critically important to the American military, and by creating a secretariat and a secretary position at this level, it sends a very strong message of support to the military, that the Commonwealth really cares enough about this issue to provide a one-stop shopping and a focused effort at the secretary level. So we are very much in support of it, sir.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, Senators, my name is Andrea McClellan. I'm a member of Norfolk City Council as well as the Hampton Road Planning District Commission. Both organizations are fully in support of this very important secretariat position. We think it's one of the most critical issues facing our region and, quite honestly, facing the entire Commonwealth. Speaking on behalf of the issue regarding the economics, Senator Lewis already had touched on the issue of Moody's and the potential negative effect if the Commonwealth does not address this issue on the state's credit rating as well as our municipalities. Additionally, as you know, the Port of Virginia is located in our region. It is a huge economic driver for the entire state, generating responsible for about $81 million in state revenues last year, $80 billion, and creating lots of jobs. According to John Reinhart, the port CEO, the flooding's a big issue in our area, and as he said, when the flooding happens, you can't move freight, you can't move cars, you can't move people. It has a negative impact on the entire supply chain throughout the state. This is something that we need to address now. We can't leave it to our children. It's important for our military, for our businesses, and for our taxpayers. Hope you will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I'm Christine Morris. I'm the Chief Resilience Officer for the City of Norfolk. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this bill. I'd like to echo what Senator Lewis said about the opportunity to use this position to go after federal funds and find new partnerships to work on coastal resilience. We have been successful with the Commonwealth in accessing these funds, and it's because of the leadership you've shown in coastal resilience in the past, and this is doubling down on that effort. And I think we'll be very successful in identifying opportunities to work with partners, including the Navy, with federal partners to begin to find ways to mitigate against the coastal risks that we're seeing as a result of sea level rise. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Bob Mathias, City of Virginia Beach. We've had this in our legislative package for 2 years now. There's no more vital issue to Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach, and indeed all the localities east of the fall line, recurrent flooding and addressing that. As you've heard, it's all over various secretariats. Right now it's being handled as sort of a subset of Secretary Moran's issues, but it affects military and veterans affairs, economic development. It's getting harder to get insurance on almost any property in Virginia Beach right now, home insurance. We need help on addressing this issue. Having the Secretariat would be good for the entire Commonwealth, and especially those localities along the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Phil Abraham on behalf of the Virginia Association for Commercial Real Estate and its member chapter, Hampton Roads Association for Commercial Real Estate. As Senator Lewis mentioned, coastal flooding has a tremendous negative potential for the economic development of our state and particularly the Hampton Roads region, and we strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no one else who wants to speak in support of those in opposition? I didn't think there would be, Senator Lewis. You want to finish up, Senator Lewis?
Just questions, sir.
Senator Hanger's got some questions.
Yes, sir, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Senator Lewis. I recall last year that you had this same legislation, I believe it was, and at that time I did not support it. And one of the reasons, of course, was, and I think it had been articulated, that the possibility of having a deputy secretary under the Secretary of Natural Resources, that this would be their sole responsibility. Because I agree with you that the policy and resources needed, are vitally needed to correct the situation as much as we can. And last year, my concern was adding another secretariat. I understand this year the governor's proposing to eliminate one of the secretaries in the cabinet, Secretary of Technology, which will deal, I guess, with the cost standpoint. Is this an initiative now? Is Governor on board with this? Is this an administration bill?
Senator Hanger, to be honest with you, they've just been there a few days. I'm not sure that they've actually taken a position on this bill. I'm not aware of it, so I can't represent that they have.
Okay.
I do know.
Right.
Obviously, it's an important issue to the administration overall, and I would be surprised if they didn't support the bill.
Right.
But I can't stand here in front of you and say that they do.
Right, okay. Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hanger.
The, and I guess, and I may end up supporting it, and I guess I'll have a little longer to decide fully, because it's going to have to go to finance, and we'll look at it there. But I guess if the administration in their reorganization is not totally behind this concept, it really what you make of it. You know, you can have a figurehead person there and not accomplish a whole lot unless you have a plan of action where a secretary will have authority and responsibilities that are really commensurate with your goals and objectives.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. So if you want to respond to that.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hanger, certainly, given the governor's place of residence, I would anticipate that he would be fully supportive of this and also fully supportive of making it a meaningful position. But again,
I thought he was a resident of Richmond.
It's where your heart is. It's where your heart is, Mr. Chairman. It's where your heart is.
Aren't you required to live in the governor's mansion? I'm not sure.
But I think, Senator Hanger, I think, again, as I indicated, and most of these speakers have indicated, the message that we send by doing this, I think, is just so vitally important. We want it to do something. It's not going to be a figurehead.
Exactly.
And I understand your concern, but that in no way is what I envision this position to be. It's going to be important to have somebody every day when their feet hit the floor to get up as a cabinet-level official for the Commonwealth and figure out how we're going to coordinate with the localities, how we're going to work with the feds to access more federal money, all of those issues.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator Evan.
I just wanted, as a point of clarification, said last year, Senator Lewis's bill, at least in this committee, was passed 13-1. I know that Senator Suderline knows how he voted, but it is
13-4. I was one of the 4.
I have 2017 in the committee, at least, it was.
That may have been finance, Senator Hanger.
Finance. Yeah. That's right. That's where I got a bite at that apple.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but
right.
Actually, Senator Hanger did support the concept enough to send it to finance, I believe,
right.
without speaking for you, Senator. But anyway, it was important then, and I think it's more important now. I don't spend a lot of time in Virginia Beach, but I went down there when it rained this past summer, and I was surprised that we couldn't drive on certain streets. And I think that we'll get a chance to see if by the time it gets to the House, if not to finance, I hope the administration will have their position.
That would be good.
So with that, I'd move, if it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Now's the appropriate
I
time.
move to report, refer to
Actually,
finance.
Senator Black had a question.
I'm sorry.
Before you go to a motion, Senator Black.
I've just got a couple comments. First, a couple of years ago, we did an excellent exercise where we went through all of our boards and commissions, and we cleaned out probably a third of them. And I think that was a very good thing. And I think the governor has done a good thing by paring down his secretariat. And this, of course, would go in the opposite direction. I really question what a secretary would do to stop the flooding. I know, I'm originally from Miami, Florida, and they do have flooding. They always have had on Miami Beach because they have, same tidal situation that we've got here. And they just deal with it locally, and, the state provides some money when they need to do some filling and that kind of thing. But I don't see us being capable, everywhere where you have a river delta, you're going to have low land, you can have subsidence of the sea floor, the seabed, that sort of thing. And it's just something you live with, it's something you deal with. And, I haven't, so far seen any dramatic drop in the price of homes around the seashore anywhere in the country because of sea rise or sea change or anything like that. And it just seems to me, I think the suggestion was made to, perhaps to make this a focus within another secretariat. And it just seems to me like financially, that makes a lot of sense. And also in terms of what we can really achieved through this effort. It seems to me like probably if we had a deputy or something of that sort who could, you know, have a little extra focus on how to bring in federal grants or any available money that could help with the seed areas that are subject to flooding. So that's my position on it. But I appreciate you addressing the issue.
Thank you, Senator Black. Senator Edmond, I think you were about to make a motion.
I was going to move that we once again refer it to finance, report and refer to finance. If that's the proper motion.
Second. There's a motion properly supported to report the bill and re-refer to Senate Finance. Clerk, would you please open the roll?
10 ayes, 3 nays.
Senator Lewis, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Lewis,
Thank
do
you.
you mind standing down? I know Senator
no, sir.
Carrico he's
Absolutely.
chairing a subcommittee right now, and he came over to try to have his bill heard, but he's got to go back and
Yes, sir. No problem.
keep chairing his committee.
Thank
Senator
you.
Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I won't belabor this. I know probably a lot of people have heard a lot.
What's your bill number? 499?
499.
Senate Bill 499.
A lot on the conservation easement issue, and some things are appropriate, some things are not. I'm not trying to do any harm to the conservation easement program. I am trying to address an issue that's starting to arise in my district and will begin to arise in everybody's district. And that is the fact that when conservation easements are done, there's real property on some of these easements, and they're houses, outbuildings, driveways, and so forth. I have a constituent who put his in the conservation easements when he was in maybe his 60s. Has no children to leave it to, so he wanted to keep and preserve the land. No one explained to him when he put it in that he couldn't do anything to his property that he lives in, modification-wise or anything else, if he put it into that. He came to me because now he's in his 80s. Of course, he's like my dad. He likes to tinker outside, but in order to get in things, he has to build ramps to get into it. He has to cover things. He has to upgrade the house to keep it livable. And he's getting older, and he's considering what he could do. Now, he could sell the property in the easement, but it has to be all sold all at once, or he, doesn't get anything out of it. And this bill basically carves out the real property, allows each individual the ability to either purchase it, repay the credits that was on it, and do whatever they want to with the property, sell it separate from the farm, or to make those modifications. Because when you get, we're not all going to be in our 50s and 60s when we make these decisions financially, and when we get older, there's things that's got to be done. And I don't know if you all have had any dealings with the historical preservation people or anything else, but they're not the easiest people to deal with. The only way that I know possible to get anything done as legislators, bring a bill forward to make them understand that this is just going the wrong way. And these individuals are getting older, and they can't keep these properties up and modify them to be able to live the rest of their life there so that they can leave it as they plan to do. And that's the biggest concern I have. And I don't know what the will of this committee would be. If you want to try to assemble a committee.
Let me ask you that question, Senator Carrico. And look, I think you bring a good issue before the committee, because I think we've all seen this issue, and the folks that hold the easements, I think, do a great job. Their hands may be tied sometimes, but it seems to me what you're really trying to do here is figure out a way where they can make certain changes that don't affect the purpose of the easement.
Right.
And a great example is somebody who gives an easement when they're 50 years old. And one of the typical things in these easements is you can't modify the principal structure. So you can't change the footprint of it. Well, at 50 years old, they don't need to, but when they're 80 and they need a wheelchair ramp and they want it covered, you suddenly can't do that. And I think some folks question whether or not the holding agencies have the ability to administratively make those changes, or if it has to go to the governor, or what has to. So what I understand you really want is to figure out a way where they can work with people so people will continue to put their property in conservation easements and not be afraid of it because of restrictions that, as their life changes, may impact them very negatively.
Well, and I can tell you this, you know, the conservation easement program has been very effective because I come from an area where a lot of families are putting those properties in there because they want to continue the farming of that land. But I have one constituent that's very vocal on this issue that has hindered that from happening a lot, and it's going to get worse if we don't do something.
Any questions of Senator Carrico from the committee? Senator Evans?
Yeah, I'm sympathetic with the bill, but I questioned how broad it was, and I was just wondering if he'd be amenable to something simpler that says something like the holding agency may approve modifications that do not drastically affect the footprint of the existing structures.
The only thing I would say, Senator Edmond, I don't want to answer for Senator Carrico, but I do know a little something about this. There are tax implications and other implications with regard to these easements. And if we want to help Senator Carrico, which I do, I think the smart way to do it would be to have maybe the stakeholders get the Virginia Outdoors Foundation and other entities together maybe over the summer and try to come up with a way that you could have language that would pass muster under the tax codes and others so that folks could have these, I would call them administrative changes, changes that don't affect the use of the easement, I guess is the best way to say it. Because people want their property to not be developed or they want it to be certain things, but the house is really not a significant part of it. And for them to be trapped into something like that, I don't think anybody ever intended that. So I wouldn't try to do it on the fly, I guess is my point.
So maybe we should, if the patron was amenable, maybe we could move to carry it over with those kinds of instructions, but I'll leave it to the patron and you.
Well, I would be amenable to carry it over for the year to assemble a group to look at this because I really think it's going to be an issue in the future. I don't think this is going away. I think the older the people get that put these properties in the easement without the understanding that they could do nothing to that property to help them afford to live there and stay there for the rest of their life, it's just going to get worse. And if we don't fix it somehow to where they can do these modifications, it's just going to get to where no one will put their properties in the easement.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Hanger.
I would certainly second that motion if that was a motion, and I would also add, I think it would be good, Mr. Chairman, if you could write a letter to the appropriate stakeholders, including VOF and others, because there are other issues with maintenance of these easements. You know, VOF is very much overloaded in terms of just monitoring what is going out there.
Right.
You have a situation where someone, has asked the question or it's come up, but there are many, I guess, violations already out there. People, they violate the spirit of the easements and do different things, and sometimes they're overbearing. And we really probably should look broadly at how we monitor these easements once they're in place.
Senator Hanger, we could even do a subcommittee if y'all want to do that to try to work through this over the summer.
All right.
If there are no other questions, I feel like I need to give folks a chance to either speak for or against, or just to weigh in if they're inclined. Anybody want to speak for Senator Carrico's proposal? Anybody want to speak against Senator Carrico's proposal? Nikki doesn't want to speak against it. She just wants to.
I'm Nikki Robner with the Nature Conservancy, and rather than going into detail regarding my concerns about the bill, I'll just say I support the idea of carrying it over. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So then, if
I move to carry it over with the letter that Senator Hanger suggested.
and establishing a work group over the year to try to work through these issues. Okay. That suits you, Senator Carrico?
Yeah, I'm heading down a path that I have no expertise in. I just am looking for a solution to a problem that's
I appreciate that, but it's important that we have the right people at the table
Sure.
on this because there are broad implications to it.
All right.
Okay, motion properly supported to pass the bill by for the year, to convene a work group on it and get the appropriate stakeholders involved. Clerk, please open the roll. Stanley.
12 ayes, 2 nays.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. And I'll be coming that way, Senator Carrico. Wait a second.
It is carryover.
It is a carryover.
Carryover. No PPI, we don't want PPI.
No, it was carried over for the year. All right, so what we are advised, and the committee come to order, what I'm advised is that we don't have that potential on the electronic voting system, and so we're going to do it the way we used to do it. There is a motion to carry the bill over for the year, which actually keeps this bill alive in the committee during the year, and we can work on it over the course of the year, and to convene those folks together for purposes of working on it. We're going to do it by voice vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Well, there's always one, isn't there? Thank you. Senator Lewis? Yes, sir. Senate Bill 217.
We have a substitute, I believe, Mr. Chairman.
While that's being distributed, we just tell us, we took a fair amount of testimony on this last time, Senator Lewis, and gave you an opportunity to try to work through this. Can you tell us the difference between what the bill did before and what it does now?
Well, Mr. Chairman, it sort of kind of does the same thing in a different way. And I don't
So
think.
you really haven't changed it?
I don't think the people who opposed it before are going to support it now or feel any less warm and fuzzy about it. But
So honestly, it really does the
well,
same
I mean,
thing it did before?
it's a different approach. If you look at it, it refers back. It adds into section 3.26543 another 3.2 code section 6511.1, and that largely was augmented, I think, by legislation or rewritten by legislation I think Senator Stanley had in either 15 or 17 about pet shops and where they can from where they can direct their or receive their stock. But this section also says it adds it to a list of other sections already in existence that allows localities to adopt more stringent ordinances that parallel that particular code section.
What is that code section, Senator Lewis? 3.2-6511.1?
Yes, sir. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
And what is that reference?
What is that reference?
Yeah.
Pet shops where they may procure their dogs.
Okay.
And again, I think this is legislation that Senator Stanley had.
All right, so if I understand it correctly, last time it said they had to get their dogs from leasing agencies and they couldn't buy them from breeders.
Right.
And you've eliminated that, but you've given them the same authority to do it without saying it.
Well, I'd like to think that
Is that
it's somewhat,
fair?
it's somewhat fair. I like to think that it gives them, it does hem them in a little bit in that it says it shall parallel this code section, which Senator Stanley essentially drafted a couple years ago.
All right.
But let me do this, Mr. Chairman, if I can. My folks didn't get a chance to testify last time. We did that for the folks who were out of town, and they're here. If they could just come forth. But
All right, I tell you what, we did take a lot of testimony on this.
But the antis.
And you had a witness who talked for a great deal of time.
But she was out of town too.
As I recall.
Yeah, and unable to come back.
So I'm gonna give each side 2 minutes.
And can I, before we do that, can I just put this in a little more perspective? I think some folks may have lost perspective on this. You know, when we were kids, you used to go to the mall, and there was always the pet shop with the puppy. If you ask yourself, when was the last time you were in a pet shop that sold puppies? Think about that. Hardly ever. It's just not a viable thing anymore. And so what we're talking about here is a very finite group of pet shops and a very limited source of from where they can derive their pets. I will point out to you too that Virginia Beach and Fairfax City, and now I think county, the gentleman said it wasn't a problem for them last time. Well, now it is a problem since he's talked to his locality, I think, and he's here. They've spent a lot of money on these pets that are still sold in pet stores, these puppies, because they often have either temperament issues or actual physical issues and are turned back into the locality shelters, and they cost them a lot of money. And they'll be here to testify to that. There are pet stores in my locality, but they don't sell dogs. You want a dog nowadays, you go to a breeder, you go to a shelter, you go to a rescue agency. That's just the way it's working out. But in certain areas, that's not where it's working out. They're getting these puppies from out-of-state puppy mills. It's causing tremendous problems for the localities. We task them with taking care of these animal issues, and yet we throw this burden on them. So that's what this bill is really about. And with that, Mr. Chairman, if the chair would allow, I'll let these folks come up and say a couple of words.
Yes. Senator Stanley.
Mr. Chairman, and let's just, so we can be certain what we're looking at right here, ladies and gentlemen of this committee, I put a bill in which is 3.26511.1, which he is saying that the pet stores must procure their puppies that parallel this statute. This statute allows for the procurement of puppies from humane societies, a private or public animal shelter, as defined in our code, or a person who is not received from the USDA pursuant to the Federal Animal Welfare Act a citation for direct or critical violation or citations for 3 or more indirect non-critical violations for at least 2 years prior to the procurement of the dog. Ladies and gentlemen, what that attempted to do, and you'll see, or 2 consecutive citations for no access to facility prior to procurement. That, and you can see what subsection B does in that code as well. That basically was trying to close the puppy mill loophole that we were seeing. What that does is, for those legitimate breeders that don't have these kind of violations, what you're saying, and I'll ask this as a question, what you're actually saying is that it gives the options that pet shops already have to offer for sale dogs either from humane societies, public animal shelters, or a breeder who's not been cited for these violations by the USDA. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Stanley.
So as I understood your bill before it was amended just to be this, in lines 17 through 21 of the prior to the amendment, you basically said that localities and those governments at the local level could restrict the sale or offer for sale, delivery, transfer of any live dog or cat that's not obtained from a releasing agency, which we know is like the Humane Societies, SPCAs, or an incorporated not-profit organization whose primary mission is the rescue and placement of abandoned, unwanted, neglected, or abused animals.
Rescues, yes.
Your amendment actually includes reputable breeders in an attempt to close out the puppy mill from that process. Is that right?
That's the intent.
And puppy mills, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Stanley.
One further. And puppy mills really have been identified as those that fall into where the USDA has made these citations and violations. That includes that, right?
I believe that's correct.
Okay.
Senator Stanley.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chair. Yes. Let me just, to follow up on what Senator Stanley said, and I'm looking at the next code section, which is
3.2-6512.
Well, there's your first mistake.
All right. Well, this is, right now, if you have a pet shop and you sell a dog or cat, it says, oh, for God's sakes, I just lost my power source. Well, what it says is, and I'm going to do this based on memory. A pet shop operating in the Commonwealth shall post in a conspicuous place on or near the cage of any dog or cat available for sale the breeder's name, city, state, and USDA license number. A pet shop or a USDA licensed dealer who advertises any dog or cat for sale in the Commonwealth, including by internet advertising, shall provide prior to the time of sale the breeder's name, city, state, and USDA license number. So that's the current law for a pet shop to sell a dog or cat, correct?
Right.
And I know that because that was my bill, Senate Bill 228 in 2014. That was a bill that I got plaques on my wall for getting that bill passed. Okay? Now, I'm understanding.
Don't give them back. Okay?
No, I'm not. I'm not giving them back. Now, I understand from talking to the Humane Society a couple days ago, it's somehow that law is not sufficient, that we still have, quote, puppy mills, or even though we have this USDA identification of every source.
I don't think that. I think the problem is, Mr. Chairman, Senator Peterson, as I understand it, and again, there are people here who are more well-versed on this than I don't think that information is available anymore.
Okay, and I understood that because we had a very candid conversation on that, and believe it or not, the Trump administration does not consult me before they go ahead with their whatever they do. But what I'm telling you is we passed a law, we have a law, we expect people to abide. If they don't abide by it, then we should shut them down. I got no problems with that. But I guess my question is, if we passed your bill, are we authorizing local governments to now enforce a law that we don't think is being enforced? Is VDOC's not enforcing this law? What's the gap here?
Or they can enact more stringent ordinances that parallel that code section that Senator Stanley and I were just talking about.
Okay, and I read parallel to be, it can have the same
guardrails,
but you can't just go around shutting down businesses.
That would be my interpretation of it.
Okay.
Yes, Senator McClellan.
Ms. Chair, so I have discovered, I think you said the only pet shops left that sell puppies are in Fairfax and Virginia Beach.
No,
okay.
That's not what I said. No.
Okay, well, because I have, as of 5 minutes ago, discovered that there is one in Ashland.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling a little bit how to explain to that proprietor what your substitute does. So, if 326511.1 already as a matter of state law, as I understand it, if I get this wrong, I'm sure Senator Stanley will correct me. As I understand it, we already have a state law that tries to make sure that pet stores are only buying from reputable breeders and already puts that requirement on them. As I understand your bill now, you're just saying the locality can adopt another ordinance, but I'm a little unclear on exactly well, but how? What does that mean?
Well, I guess we'd have to pass it and find out.
I suspect that he's not going to be very comfortable with me telling him that. So,
well, but again, Senator McClellan, on a practical basis, everything is full of bad actors and there are good actors. This is not going to negatively impact every pet store that sells puppies. And not every locality is going to avail themselves of this. There are specific areas where this is a big problem, and I'm sure we'll hear from some of those areas, hopefully, in a minute, because, again, these folks are more well-versed on this than I am.
But let me ask you this. Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. Follow-up question. Let me ask, if your bill passed, a locality adopt an ordinance that is similar to 3.26511.1, but that strikes the ability to buy a puppy from a breeder that meets the criteria of 6511.1? So in other words, if you're saying parallel, does parallel mean that the local ordinance can say you can only buy your animals from a humane society, a private or public animal shelter, as those terms are defined, period? Is that parallel?
Mr. Chairman, Senator McClellan, I would take parallel to mean, as indicated Senator Peterson, there are guardrails. And I would interpret that to mean they cannot willy-nilly adopt ordinances that forbid the sale of puppies. That would not be parallel. If they just adopted an ordinance that says any pet shop in this locality can't sell puppies, I don't think that's parallel.
Mr. Chair,
Senator McClellan.
may I ask committee counsel if he agrees with Senator Lewis's interpretation?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have an example to draw on, and I think it would be up to a court in the end, but I think you could make an argument that if the intent of the existing code section were to allow ordinances that parallel these various code sections, it would just say parallel. And if the intent is to allow localities to adopt ordinances that are similar but more restrictive, then you would add that word stringent. I don't know if that helps.
Mr. Chairman.
Does that finish you, Senator McClellan?
I want to offer a
Yes,
definition
thank
of
you.
stringent, just to help, just to pair it off of what she's saying. Mr. Chairman, stringent is defined in the Oxford Dictionary as strict, firm, rigid, rigorous, severe, harsh, tough, tight, exacting, demanding, inflexible. Pick one of those.
Thank you. Okay. I think what we need to do right now, y'all been sitting here a while. Senator Stewart indicated 2 minutes per side. How many people are planning to speak here? Oh, my goodness. Is that on the affirmative side or affirmative and negative side?
Now, I will say, Mr. Chairman, I know Senator Stewart was running the meeting last time. I had one witness testify because she was from out of town.
Right, but we spent a half an hour with her, though.
It seemed like it to me. I don't know.
We did. I've got a button here that says 3 minutes. Can y'all deal it in let's do 3 minutes for each side.
Okay.
All right, 3 minutes for each side. And I'm going to pretty strictly adhere to that. And you want me to start the timer here?
Oh, that's okay. Let me start.
Okay, if you'll just do that. All right, we'll have our first speaker on the affirmative side.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. I'm Matt Gray with the Humane Society of the United States. I've had the chance to talk to many of you over the last few days, and I appreciate that. This bill, while it's something that animal welfare advocates care a great deal about because we care about the sourcing of puppies and the way they're treated by large-scale breeders, is motivated by the desire of some communities that feel like they have bad actor pet shops to do something about that, and the feeling that they have from their county or city attorneys that they currently aren't empowered to do anything about that. And the best example is the large-scale seizure of puppies from a pet shop in Fairfax County in 2016, where the county spent an incredible amount of money to care for those animals and rehabilitate them because they were very sick. And there's still a pet shop in that same spot, and Fairfax County and city don't feel like there's a whole lot they can do about that. So that's really the motivation here, is to give some power to localities to do something about the bad actors. I imagine the good actors aren't likely to have a problem with their board of supervisors. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. 2 minutes remaining.
My name is Tamara Spink. I'm a constituent of Senator Black's. I've traveled here today to talk to you about this puppy here. This puppy here is named Moo. I know her. She's my puppy. She was sick in a pet shop. She was designated fit for sale. She was purchased to save her life for the sum of $2,700. Then the Samaritan, yes, these are your pet stores that we're all so worried about. The Good Samaritan who rescued her then went and spent another $500, which was not covered by the health guarantee. Sorry about that. Then I ended up, I can't do this. I ended up with her and spent another $1,000 in 7 months trying to clear her of a Giardia infection, which is transmittable to human beings and requires a significant amount of extreme vigilance in order to rid her of. So that's it, $1,500 in health and $2,700 on the dog.
Mr. Chair, can I just tell you have a cause of action under the Virginia Consumer Protection Act, under the bill we passed in 2014, Senate Bill 228. Please, if you don't, you can contact my office afterwards. You have a cause of action.
There you go.
Rule 36, Rule 36.
Point of order, is that
Rule
the senator's
36.
law office or his legislative office?
Okay,
Dominion,
thank
take
you,
your
ma'am.
land.
Thank you, ma'am.
Pipeline, take your land.
Bob Mathias, City of Virginia Beach. We support
1 minute
this.
remaining. Thank
It's
you.
enabling legislation only. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia Beach.
I'm Robin Starr, the CEO of the Richmond SPCA. We're very strongly supportive of this bill. My organization, which is a private nonprofit, spends tens of thousands of dollars every single year trying to provide veterinary medical care to the dogs that came from puppy mills that get relinquished at our animal shelter because of people who do not have the financial capacity or the patience to deal with the genetic and physical problems that they produce. So I think localities have a legitimate interest in wanting to help their local nonprofits to have the financial capacity to provide programs and services to that community instead of it getting sucked away by dealing with problems with relinquished puppy mill puppies. So I do think that every locality is different, and this is a legitimate interest that they have.
Thank you. Time is actually up, but go ahead, come ahead, and I'll give the same courtesy to the other side. Come ahead.
Okay.
But don't go over much, just keep going.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Tabitha Treelor. I'm the Director of Communications with the Richmond SPCA and also speaking on behalf of the Virginia Federation of Humane Societies. While we commend the senators who have helped us pass progressive legislation in the past, the USDA has undermined Senator Peterson's pet shop disclosure law and Senator Stanley's pet shop sourcing law by removing the inspection reports from the internet. And that takes away the consumer protection and transparency that this body intended to have. And so we ask that in response to that, that we can look favorably upon Senator Lewis's bill.
So,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Chairman,
much.
may I ask one quick question there?
Sure.
Yeah,
Stop
if you'd
the
rather
timer.
not.
Go right ahead.
It was back to the question about parallel. If the localities then say, well, everything after breeder, we can't track anymore in 11 or 12, therefore, because we can't track, we're going to stop with the pet shops, they'll sell off for adoption, dog procured only from a humane society, a private or public animal shelter, period. Do you believe that Senator Lewis's substitute allows the locality to do that?
I'm afraid I don't have the legal background to speak to that.
Could our attorney?
I'm
sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I'm not sure you would have a quick opinion. You don't need to if you don't have a quick opinion on that.
As your lawyer, I say you should.
Probably shouldn't have an opinion on that. Okay, we'll pass on that. We'll
Mr.
pass on
Chairman,
that one.
one quick
Okay.
question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, restarting the timer.
I'm
Mr.
Karen
Chairman?
Moran with Virginia.
I did have one quick question for that witness, if I might.
Okay.
For the last witness, in the section that we've got now, it says, a pet shop shall retain records verifying compliance with this section and where they procured the animal from for a minimum of 2 years after the disposition of any dog. What would, and you talk about lack of transparency, if we made it that the pet shop had to provide the records at the time of sale, would that not solve the problem?
My understanding is what they're required to provide is the USDA license number from the breeder or dealer from which they have sourced the puppy. Previously, that license number could then be looked up in a database maintained by the USDA of inspection reports.
Okay.
Those inspection reports have been taken down since February of 2017, so nearly a year that those have been inaccessible to the public. They're only accessible through a lengthy FOIA process, which...
Sure, the average buyer.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, go right ahead, Senator Bond.
Thank you. So isn't the way to get at that problem to say that pet stores can only get dogs or purchase dogs or obtain dogs from a breeder that provides information, that provides a certain number of years of their inspection reports? I mean, I think there's a much, if the problem you're trying to solve is you have no way now, because the reports aren't available, to verify if this is a breeder who is complying with the Animal Welfare Act. Seems to me the way to get around that is to say the pet store can only take animals where they have documents that show they are in compliance with the Welfare Act. So make the breeder give the pet store, here are my inspection reports, or some sort of sworn affidavit. I think that's a better way to get at the problem you're trying to solve than a very broad, in my opinion, still very broad ability for a local government to just come in and say, you know, we're going to prohibit pet shops from taking dogs from anybody. They could do that. I think if you say they can do something parallel to this, they could come in and say, pet shops can't sell dogs, period. They can't take them from the SPCA. They can't take them from the Humane Society. They can't take them from anybody. So I'm still looking for something a little bit more narrow than what's in front of us today.
Clown, next speaker.
I'm Kara Moran. I'm with Virginia Positivity Initiative, and thank you for your time. Over 200 localities, towns, and cities in the United States have already passed a similar law like this in ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Susan Lowney, Chairman, members. I represent the Northern Virginia Dog Community, a coalition of welfare groups. We purchased 2 dogs, sick puppies, from a pet store in our area this summer, from a store that the owner purports he regularly checks up on his breeders, and yet they had all the illnesses so typical of dogs we see from puppy mills. So we do support no dog sales, cat sales in pet stores. This would just be a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay.
Last but not
Yes.
least, good afternoon, Senators. I had the opportunity to talk to you, some of you, early this morning, and I thank you for that time. Obviously, I'm Gina Lynch from the Humane Society of Fairfax County, and we approach this bill from a different perspective, and that is from the lives of the female dogs who spend their entire lives in a wire cage, having litter after litter, year after year. That's just no way for us to say that we have a humane Commonwealth. There are options available, and puppy mills is not the option.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move now to those that are opposed to the bill, and we'll set the timer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Bob Likens. I'm with the Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council in Alexandria. To be very brief and respectful of the committee's time, this amended bill takes the original bill, couches it in technical language, and does exactly the same thing, banning the sale of pets. I use the term pets, not dogs, because although most of the discussion here has been about dogs, this exact tactic has been used in other jurisdictions to ban the sale of hedgehogs, rabbits, pot-bellied pigs. Last year in Cambridge, Massachusetts, these same groups actually used it to ban the sale of all pets at pet stores, which resulted in a Petco closing within about 2 months of them passing it. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have with regard to the USDA inspections and so forth, because we actually have agreements in place with them. So if there are other questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise,
thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Senator McClellan.
And this could be for any of the pet shop owners, but I guess, it seems to me it wouldn't be that big a burden on you if when you are getting your pets that you ask the breeder for their USDA inspection reports.
Senator, when the USDA came down with that decision to take down their website, it caught us as flat-footed as it did the animal welfare community. We work with them a lot, so we immediately reached out to them to find out what was going on, and we've been working with them on a way to get as much information as possible back up, because we think transparency is good for the industry as well as pet owners. We also immediately conveyed to all of our membership that every time they get puppies, they ought to request that exact inspection you're talking about with the puppies. So they should get it with every puppy they get. And we support language that requires stores to do that and to make that available.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, next speaker.
Hi, Chris Pascini from Stanton, Virginia. We own 2 pet stores. To answer the question, we do ask for the inspection reports from every breeder that we get. We want to be in 100% compliance with the law, as I do most other good pet stores. This bill is worse than the last. It's gray, it's confusing, and we really don't know what it means. We've had so much discussion, and no one knows really what it means or what it would ultimately do to us. There is consumer protection standards already in place if someone gets a bad dog. And, back to the point about the bills 4 years ago pushed by the animal rights group, that forced us to have to go outside of Virginia to buy the inventory for our stores that your constituents want to buy from us. And that bill forced us to do that. Prior to that, everything that we purchased was 100% from Virginia. We've changed our business model once already, and I don't know what else to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for hearing me today. My name is Chuck Balsamo. I'm from Augusta County, and I'm a business owner and just a good citizen, and I'm a pet lover. And I've had lots of pets over the years, and I think many people can say that pets change our lives. And gosh, I've gotten pets from shelters. I've gotten pets from pet stores. I know I have friends on both sides of this issue, and it's heated. And my argument to you would be, we got an animal shelter pet several years ago, and it bit a neighbor on each side of my house. That doesn't mean that animal shelters are bad. It doesn't mean I wouldn't get an animal from a shelter. But I think as a citizen, I should have the right to be able to go to a pet store. I love what you guys have done over the last few years. I see positive change with pet stores. We just bought 2 golden doodles. We have 4 grandkids. We wanted to get intentionally bred puppies with a really good disposition, and I'm very happy that we were able to do that. What I like is that a pet store has the opportunity to do a lot of the screening for us. It's difficult for us to go all over the place and look at breeders and try to pick out the best ones, and I feel like pet stores are a mechanism of protection for my family and for lots of other people. So thank you very much, and I oppose this bill strongly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Kareem Kushak. I am the owner-operator of the Petland in Fairfax City. I opened my shop because I love animals. To answer part of your statement, I did try to work with my local shelter and rescues, and they straight up do not want to work with us. It's not even a chance of a question. They do not want to work with us. So this wouldn't even work in any way, shape, or form. I actually do make sure that every dog comes in does have a USDA statement that is clean and not just a USDA statement. So this is also a big thing.
Okay.
If there's
Mr.
any
Chairman?
question.
All right.
Are you the only
Yes,
pet?
Senator.
I'm sorry, may I ask a question?
Yes, go
Are you
ahead.
the only pet land in Fairfax, Virginia?
Yes, sir.
So it's my understanding that,
In Fairfax City.
is there one in Fairfax County?
I'm in Fairfax City. I believe there's 2 or 3 other stores within that region.
And if I could follow up, are you a chain or an independently owned?
It's a franchise that I actually went to do the Scrubby Day, and they came and then they vetted us. They check on us. They actually also do breeder trips. They do breeder inspections on our behalf, on top of myself actually doing 3 breeder trips a year when I have the opportunity to actually go out and visit.
And finally, I would just
Senator
make
Abbott?
a statement that I'm happy that you're doing a good job at sourcing your puppies, but I see that there are 5 other Petland violations in Fairfax, Virginia, that received as many as, I think, 13 violations, AWA violations that are USDA licensed breeders. I'm sure it's not your store, but I hope that your franchisor would do a better job getting your colleagues to inspect.
There's only one Petland in Northern Virginia, as far as I know. I've been here for 15 years. I'm the only lead. There were a
Okay.
couple down in Beckley, but I believe with the economy crash, they went out at that point.
Okay, well, I'll just share this with you. The opponents to the bill are alleging that your store had purchased a number of, or sold a number of animals that were
Sounds like
multiple
unfounded
violations.
complaints.
I'll just share it with you. You can talk
Sure.
about it offline.
Okay. Senator Marsden? You were reaching for water cup, or did you have something to say? Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
Uh,
you. Next speaker.
I'm just let everybody, I am opposing this bill.
Thank you.
Have a good
We appreciate that.
Hello, my name is Chuck Pauley. I am not the owner of Pauley's Post, but I do work there. It's a family-operated business. I work 2 days a week, and basically my job is to log all USDA numbers, microchip numbers, and those type of things. And yes, USDA did take that off of their website, but we still require that those breeders send us those inspection reports. And what we work off of is no violations, and in most cases, we get 2 to 3 years of those inspections reports. So that is something that if a pet store, asks for, that you're still available and that you still can get. The other aspect, I realize that this is a very touchy business, and our family has operated and realized that, and that you win some, you lose some, and we work hard to maintain a good name. We have tried to work with our local Humane Society to the aspect that we were donated $500 worth or 500 pounds of dog food, and you could not feed adult dog food to puppies. We offered to donate that to them, and they would not take that from us. So we do have those aspects that we have tried and asked that, again, that you oppose this law.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Hello, my name's David Foley. I'm with Pet World in Hampton, Virginia. This is like a battle of David and Goliath. There's 12 pet stores in the state of Virginia that actually sell dogs. We all try to do a very good job of it. And there's over 500 rescues and shelters in the state. They import dogs into this state, and then they sell them, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've competed. It's not competing with them. They have there are people that want to adopt dogs, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there are people that want a specific dog, and the consumer comes in and wants it. We try our best to get that. And basically what you're doing is you're taking away the rights from the consumer of what they can actually get.
Okay.
They're not even aware that we're voting on this bill today, that when and if this passes, that they can't go into a pet store and buy a dog. And I'm strictly against this, and it's against our freedoms as far as I'm concerned, and basically it's just not fair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think our times came out about equal there. Dr. Lewis, if you want to just wrap up quickly, well, I'll ask the committee to take action. I think we've heard enough.
Yeah, real quickly, Mr. Chairman. Local ordinance, not every locality is going to enact this ordinance. Not every locality has a pet store selling puppies. Very few do. Not all of them are bad actors. You've heard from 2 localities that had significant negative impacts from this. So again, it's a local option. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You want us to adopt the sub?
Yes.
The substitute?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the substitute's in front of you. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Motion properly supported to adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the substitute is in front of us. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, first, if I may. This is a very important issue, and I appreciate you just letting me speak just one more time. Nobody fights for rescue animals and has probably more rescue animals than me on this panel. I think what we're seeing here is something that maybe we need to get to a recognition where pet shops need to be regulated like we do with the animal shelters. I think we need to have those inspections. We need to have those reports on how these dogs pass away or how they get sick. So we can backtrack to find where that source might have come from for that disease. I mean, we need to know and have accurate reports of where these animals come from. And I think what I'm seeing, though, because we don't want dogs from puppy mill states. That's Virginia's policy. I don't think any of us disagree with that. And I think, though, that there are some pet stores where I don't want to lump them all into that category either, because we're talking about people who are running usually small businesses the best they can. So I want VDACs actually to step up and start looking at this issue and report to us on exactly what's going on here, and that they should be. They're permitted them to inspect these. They should be doing these. They should be inspecting and regulating these pet stores like they're permitted to do. And we should have not only a report on it, but I think everybody should have access. And then we'll know whether this is right or not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Sounds like your position. What's the pleasure of the committee? I'm chairing. Go right ahead. I would suggest, given what Senator Stanley's just said, is that we probably should carry the bill over in the committee. That would be my suggestion. That would be your motion?
Second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The bill is carried over.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. I've got one more, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Senate Bill 693, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, can you carry that over with a letter asking VDACs for that kind of information on inspection?
We can do that. I will communicate with the ag chair.
Yes.
And we'll get a letter. Because I think the pet store owners actually would probably welcome that.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Your next bill then, Senator Lewis.
Yes, sir.
Does it get easier?
This one I hope will be. I hope this one will be. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 693 seeks to establish the Virginia Waterway Maintenance Fund. This fund is necessitated by a very acute problem in the Commonwealth on our coastal areas. Virginia, by the way, has the 8th largest amount of shoreline, number of miles of shoreline in the United States, to point out the severity of this problem when I flesh it out for you. Our commercial waterways have not had maintenance dredging performed and are becoming unnavigable. And the reason is twofold. Number one, the great decline over the last decade or so in federal funding for dredging. On the Eastern Shore, they're actually going into these channels and actually cutting down the navigational markers and removing them because the channels have not been dredged and they're no longer adequate or no longer accurate in their references. In the absence for a long time of state and local funding. So I'll point out to you that on the Eastern Shore alone, there were $38 million worth of commercial landings in regard to seafood products, not including the economic impact of recreational and the peripheral impact of tackle shops, lodging, and restaurants, as well as the huge and burgeoning aquaculture industry. And that's just the Eastern Shore. Delegate Hodges has told me that he has found that for every 1 foot of dredge, it increases real estate values by 24% on these waterside homes. On the Eastern Shore, we performed a survey. There were 59 waterways evaluated. 32 were federally designated waterways, 27 were non-federally designated waterways. 37% had no more than 3 feet at low tide in some sections. A third of the non-federal waterways had sections of no more than 3 feet at mean low water. These waterways are extremely important to the coastal Virginia economy and also to the economy of the Commonwealth as a whole, given the impacts of our commercial fishing industry, our aquaculture industry, and our tourism and recreational industry. This is a situation of neglect, which is only getting worse. We also have the added benefit from increased dredging of spoils that we can use for mitigation of flooding and erosion. And the bill creating the fund specifically, I believe, addresses that outcome for the spoils. We also, I want to point out to the committee, we have a budget amendment in that will be in front of Finance, which seeks not to get new money, but seeks to redirect an existing pot of money from the unrefunded marine motor fuels tax that has not been adjusted since 2003. And so we think there's some room there. Somehow that money has not been transferred over in the direction that it should have been. And so what we seek to do is have that transfer updated. And we believe, in working with finance staff, that there should be some extra money there which would go expressly to this fund.
Okay, so
That's
it. All right. Is there anyone here actually opposed to this? Anybody here in support of it? Then if you want to, okay, very good. It does sound like a good concept. Would have to go to the Finance Committee.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. Just reading in the first paragraph, the
I'm
authority.
sorry. Wait a minute, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, Senator Marsden. There's a substitute.
You got a substitute?
Sorry.
Okay. All right. All right, is there a motion on the substitute?
Move to forward.
Motion properly supported to adopt substitute for Senate Bill 693. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it is adopted. Senator Marsden.
I'm trying to see if the word is still used. You would use, administered by the authority. You're talking about the Port Authority?
Port Authority. And you will see in the original bill, there was a reference to the executive director of the Commonwealth Port Fund making a transfer into that fund. That's been eliminated at the request of the Port Authority, but they will administer the fund.
The Port Authority?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because it's a little vague there, the language. It doesn't, reference back.
It's a grant process. Yeah, I think there should be a definitional section in there.
Oh.
Okay. Senator Martin?
Okay.
That do it? Any other questions? What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report and refer to the Senate Finance Committee. Clerk, open the roll. Record your votes. Where'd that vote stored at over here?
Ayes 13, no 0.
Wait a minute. Where'd I hit Stewart's? You can have it. Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
13-0, actually 14-0. The bill is reported. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we have anyone in the audience? Is all committee members? Senator Mason, you up next? I don't see non-members in waiting.
Mr. Chairman, just for housekeeping, I think we can, both myself and DB on my bill, which is 175. We're just getting the language back together. It's my fault. I didn't get it to them in time of the people that, I'm not going to let you take the blame, Barry.
You want to pass that by for the day?
Yes, we agreed, and the chairman had agreed to do that one more time.
Okay. Without objection, Senate Bill 175 will go by for the day.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, this
Got another
is,
one?
No, I don't.
I beg your pardon. Housekeeping done, Mr. Chairman? We good?
Yes,
Senate Bill
Senator Mason, apologize.
552, Mr. Chairman. So as many on the committee know, we've got a pretty significant ghost crab pot problem where crab pots, the industry tells me 20-25% of the pots are lost a year of their inventory. And so these pots continue to catch, harvest upwards of 3 million crabs, but 20 species are caught in these crab pots a year. And so we're trying, I was at the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, and they've been developing a technology that has biodegradable rings at the end of each pot to try to, if a ghost pot is lost, to try to make sure that it biodegrades in an 8-month period, allowing the harvest to come out. Now, Mr. Chairman, we've pushed deadlines way out, and I do have an amendment to the bill on line 27, please, sir, where it says
Okay.
January 1st, 2019. I'd like to make that July 1st, 2019. And I move the amendment.
Motion properly supported to change the date. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, that amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the goal here is to push this out as to not onerously impact the industry or others and give plenty of forewarning for this process to be put in place. And that would be any crab pot sold or peeler pot sold or used in the state by July 1st, 2019 would have to have, and this bill is drawn so it's not one specific type of technology. It is biodegradable rings that would biodegrade after 8 months. So that is intentional. And then by July 1, 2020, any crab pot used in Virginia would have to have these biodegradable rings. And so we're trying to make sure we don't overly impact the industry, using the 20 to 25% number in a 2.5-year period. The max that you may have to retrofit of your, yes, sir.
Excuse me, Senator Mason, Senator Black has a
I beg
question.
your pardon, Senator.
Senator Mason, my only question, and I like what you're trying to do, but in a period of 8 months, isn't everything in that crab pot going to die?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, Senator Black, it would have to biodegrade in 8 months. So in that 8-month period, it could well. But after that period, anything that got in the pot would easily be able to escape. So you're right, and we hope to keep working on technology that might biodegrade in a short period of time, but the challenge here is to make sure they are sturdy, reliable for the crabbers that are using them, but at the same time, when lost, would biodegrade over time.
And Mr. Chairman,
Sure,
just to follow, okay, so I'm beginning to understand. So right now, with the crab pots that don't have a biodegradable exit, what happens is after they're lost, then crabs and so forth just keep getting in them just indefinitely and dying.
It could, Mr. Chairman, Senator Black, they could, yes, sir, in 20 species. So really, we're looking at this as catching crabs that are not going to be able to continue to reproduce and populate the system, as well as taking harvest away from a live pot that may be near a ghost pot. So, yes, sir, many different species continue to enter the ghost pots and are caught and either not available for catch or harvest or just detrimental to the system.
Okay, other question? Okay, does that finish your presentation?
Yes,
We have
sir.
people to speak to this bill. Anyone to speak to the bill in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Nicole Brenner with Reed Smith. I think Senator Mason covered it pretty well. I do have Wade Blackwood here from Mob Jack Binnacle, who makes a biodegradable escape panel, who can answer questions. I'm happy to answer any technical questions, and there may be someone from VIMS here to talk about the problem and the solution that they've come up with.
Okay. Questions? I would only offer, and certainly we would welcome remarks. This committee has had good experience in looking, at least this committee and others that I've served on, and looking at the progress. We funded some collection of ghost pots at one point. I've observed, there appeared to me, and this was what was a surprise to me, I thought the industry was picking up on these more quickly, that it was becoming pretty standard to use these biodegradable apertures. At any rate, if you want to present some testimony, I'd be glad to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. My name is Wade Blackwood. I'm the founder of Mobjack Binnacle Products. I'm an avid outdoorsman, and being a Virginian, know that the staple of crabs is important to our economy as well as just our table as well. And I think what has happened, I've tracked this problem for a number of years, and using research from not only VIMS but other state institutions. But the problem with the crab traps are that they continue to catch, and once they're at the bottom of the bay, they don't stop catching until they're either removed. And I think this is a problem that was addressed maybe 10 years ago, a decade ago, and it impacts other fisheries. It impacts the stripers, diving ducks, anything that can go in the water. Turtles gets caught in these traps, and reports have shown, especially from VIMS as well, of what the damage is done, what these pots can do if they're not removed or nullified. And I think VIMS came up with a technology that I was really impressed with, that allows animals after this 8-month degradation period to escape if they get caught. So it doesn't just stop. Once the animals go into the trap, they're self-baiting. They die, and other animals are attracted to it. Unless they have a reasonable escape, it's going to continue to happen until the trap's full. And I think VIMS pulled almost 44,000 traps off the bottom of the bay. So this is a problem that's not going away. It's only getting worse with recreation use and commercial use, and especially as technology gets better for traps, et cetera, they can last a lot longer on the bottom. I think VIMS came up with a really unique panel that goes in the trap. You retrofit it into your trap. It's very durable. We tested it. You can power wash it. It's pretty tough, but this material is made out of PHA, which degrades within 8 months, given the thickness of it. It stands for the life of a season for sure with the watermen. And it also, once pots, as Senator Mason noted, that 20-25% of pots that are lost or abandoned is a big deal. And over time, they continue to collect. And with the degradable panels, it turns it into, sometimes you can turn it into a shelter or help in the fishery to some degree. But this is one way, and we've looked at this for a decade, that it hasn't gone away. And as a Virginian, I think this is a unique opportunity for us to do the right thing to preserve the industry.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this bill?
Be careful, I'm not in opposition.
Okay.
Chris Moore, Chesapeake Bay Foundation. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you all for discussing this issue. CBF obviously wants to do anything that can help protect our blue crab population. One of the things that we've always been a little bit concerned about is making sure we don't hamstring later conservation efforts by having things in state code, but we've worked with the patron on this. We want to continue working with him to make sure we don't have any consequences like that, but anything we can do to continue to protect this resource is a good thing.
Okay, thank you, thank you. All right, anyone speaking in opposition?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you a crabber?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Logan Kellum, and I'm a waterman from Reedville, Virginia. I believe that there has not been thorough testing on these biodegradable panels, and I urge that you do not report this bill.
Okay, do you take questions?
Yes, please. Yes, sir.
No, we won't put you on the spot. I might know your dad. You're a good speaker like he is.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Are y'all using any of them with the biodegradable apertures on them?
No, sir.
You're not using any now? Okay. Do y'all have a lot of them?
Well, my cousins have upwards to 300 crab pots.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Also a question for the witness. This is, would you have to dispose of the crab pots that you currently have to comply with the law, or would you be able to retrofit them to
From
meet
what
the
I've heard,
need?
I'll have to cut them up and put that in, and but if that doesn't work, then the crab pot's pretty much ruined. If the panels do not work correctly.
Okay, so it's a gamble for you, is that right?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Appreciate your
My
testimony.
pleasure.
Are there others to speak in opposition or concern to this particular measure? I guess that's where, that's Senator Mason, I guess, when it was brought to me, that was the one concern I had. And I had thought that the industry was switching more quickly than they were.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could I ask Commissioner Bull a couple of questions?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And Mr. Chairman, just real quick, that's why we pushed the
The
deadlines
date
out
out,
as far as
right,
we have.
uh-huh.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner.
Chairman, members of the committee, I'm John Bull, Commissioner of Marine Resources. Senator Lewis.
Commissioner, have you examined, has the commission examined this technology?
In a very peripheral way. We had a pilot study last summer, and we had 6 or 7 volunteer crabbers test this technology. They came back, as a general rule, their sentiment was the concept is laudable, that they like the idea of a biodegradable panel so that these derelict crab pots would not continue to do what they were designed to do for 2 to 6 years, depending on if they've been zinced and last longer. That said, they're probably not representative sentiment throughout the crabbing industry, and I wouldn't imagine the crabbing industry wholeheartedly embracing the concept of biodegradable panels and that there is a cost to it. And to answer specifically your question, the volunteers that worked on this with us and test drove these panels came back and said that the design could be better somehow. They had trouble wiring these panels into their crab pots, and they were concerned that the panels did not seem to stand up to the routine power washing that commercial crabbers use for their crab pots.
One follow-up question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Lewis.
Do you have a regulatory process with stakeholders in place for something like this?
Yes, our Crab Management Advisory Committee here routinely addresses matters that are and discusses matters that are pertinent to the entire commercial and recreational crabbing industry. I want to also clarify one point here is that I don't have a position on this bill, and I'm just trying to be helpful here to give you enough information to make an informed decision.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, final question.
Senator
The
Lewis.
stakeholder group hasn't taken this up.
No, they have not at this point.
Okay. Anyone else to speak for or against the bill? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Second.
Motion properly supported to report the bill as amended. The hearing no further discussion, clerk, open the roll. Yeah, got you. All right, got you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
10 ayes, 4 nays.
10 ayes, 4 nays, the bill is reported.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Senator Mason. Okay, Senator Chapin, you have a bill on the docket here, I believe.
Mr. Chairman, do you know how far west I live from this location, right where we are now? I know, not you. You, Mr. Chairman.
You mean due west, or how long it takes you to get to Abington?
Well, either one would be relevant for this, but I will tell you how far it is.
Okay.
Okay, when it gets dark, when it gets dark here, it's still daylight there. Okay, so the good people of Southwest Virginia who like to hunt raccoons. And I have substitute, by the way. I'd like to move the substitute.
Okay. Motion properly supported to substitute. All those in favor say aye.
So-
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the substitute is in front of you.
Mr. Chairman, there's a coalition of hunters there in Southwest Virginia that like to hunt raccoons with dogs. The current law allows for that hunting to take place both on Saturday night and into the and as well as Friday night. But it ends, the Sunday hunting does not allow it to go forward till later into the Sunday morning. this bill would allow hunting to occur during the nocturnal hours when raccoons are out rumbling around. And this is on request from actually from a supporter of mine who likes to raccoon hunt. And I know I can tell you that the raccoons in our area have become quite a problem in the sense that there are a lot of them, and they like to get on your porch, and they like to get on your patio, and they just like to come all around your house.
Okay.
And you know, if you don't have dogs that will take them on, they make quite a mess. So I hope it would be the pleasure of the committee to expand the hunting with dogs for raccoon hunters only on the weekend.
Okay, so Senator Chafin, if I get this right, you were suggesting to me that when it's Sunday morning here in Richmond, it's still Saturday night in Abington?
No, sir. I wasn't trying to stretch the truth that much. I wasn't stretching the truth quite that much. But what I was doing was illustrating that our people like to stay out a little bit later.
Okay. I got
If you want to know the truth of it.
I can verify that. I can verify that.
Anyone here to speak in opposition to the bill?
I have a
Yes, Senator
sorry.
McClellan.
I have a question.
Yes.
So as I understand the substitute, someone could hunt raccoons all day on Sunday, even during daylight hours, but raccoons are asleep. So I remember from my days on the other side of the house, a lot of horse equine folk who were concerned about Sunday hunting while they're trying to ride. And while I understand the issue of you need time to hunt raccoons when it's dark, and sometimes when it's dark, that goes into Sunday morning. But I guess Sunday, once the sun comes up, the raccoons aren't out, but I mean, it doesn't say they can only hunt raccoon. I mean, technically, you can hunt a raccoon even if they're asleep. So this would allow someone at 12 o'clock in the afternoon to go out and hunt raccoon even though they're asleep and somebody might be trying to ride their horse. Am I reading that right?
Yes, I think I understand your question, Senator McClellan, but I think it reveals that you've never been raccoon hunting.
I haven't, but I haven't.
So there's absolutely no purpose in trying to hunt them during the daylight hours because they're inside, they're asleep, okay, and they're not going to get up during the day unless they're rabid, unless they have a disease. They are nocturnal, just like bats, just like any other number of nocturnal animals like owls. Their habits are during the dark, and so that's when they're out creating a scent on the ground that the dogs can follow. So what the hunters like to do is they like to prize themselves with the type of dogs that they have to get on that scent, to find that scent. And they can tell by the way the dog is baying, whose dog is on the scent of a raccoon, and then they can tell before they ever get there that the raccoon has gone to tree, that it's been treed. So that's the sport. I mean, that's the sport of it. And a lot of them, quite honestly, don't take the raccoons, you know, which is part and parcel of the problem that we have. We have an overpopulation of raccoons.
Mr. Chair, follow-up question.
Senator McClellan?
So would you have a problem, because part of my issue is not just the black letter of the law that applies to hunters and what hunters are going to do as a practical matter, but the signal that this sends to people who want to know that they're going to be out and not face the possibility of, running and being shot. Would you have a problem if we clarified in your bill that it wouldn't apply to a person who hunts or kills raccoons and put a time frame, like before dusk, or to make clear it's only when the raccoons are out?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I
Senator
might
Chafin.
say, right now, it's perfectly legal to hunt with dogs on Sunday, okay, right now for birds, okay? So you can go bird hunting on Sunday, and I'm a bird hunter. I have bird dogs, and I can go on Sunday if I don't go to my place of worship. So it's perfectly legal to do that, to have dogs out. It's just not legal to hunt deer with dogs on Sunday, and that's where the issue has been, is with people running dogs with, and that's what this committee has been preoccupied with a great deal, is the running of deers with hounds. So I don't think that amendment would be necessary, simply because right now, bird hunters can hunt anyway. It's a completely different dog now. You know, your bird dog doesn't bark at all. If it does bark, you get rid of it.
I'm sorry.
So,
Mr. Chair, one more question. And
Senator McClellan.
I don't hunt. I don't know anything about hunting. But what is causing me pause is on line 17 to 18, where you strike that any person who hunts or kills raccoons, which may be hunted until 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. And I guess what I'm confused about is the law at one time at least was trying to make a distinction that raccoons are only hunted in the dark. And I thought what your bill was trying to get at is dark goes beyond 2, but this seems to be doing a little bit more. And so that's where my struggle is are we inadvertently opening the door for something that wasn't allowed all day that now could be allowed all day?
there's, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect to the inquiry to this inquiry, there's no way to hunt them during the day unless you would do it with dynamite, okay? I mean, you'd have to blow them out of the tree because they're asleep. I mean, they're asleep, and they're like animals that hibernate during the daylight hours. They come out during the nighttime hours, and I know that to be the way that they are.
One last question.
Okay, Senator McClellan.
That is true, but what I'm getting at is, are we creating a loophole for someone who will say, I'm hunting raccoons, but in reality, they're out looking for somebody else, something else? I mean, I hear what you're saying, that as a practical matter, no one is going to go out and hunt a raccoon during the day. I get that. But what I'm getting at is, shouldn't the black letter of the law reflect that reality by limiting your ability legally to hunt raccoons to what in practical effect is the time you're going to be hunting raccoon?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator
the licensing of hunting for raccoons does not limit you to hunting them during dark hours. All right, if you look at the permits through the Department of Game and Inland Fishery, it does not talk about that you can only hunt raccoons during nocturnal hours. It's because everybody knows you can only hunt raccoons during nocturnal hours.
Okay.
So it's like ice fishing. You can only do it when there's ice. You know, you can't. You gotta be in a boat otherwise, and that's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
Mr. Chairman? Yes, Senator Martin.
Thank you. Senator Chafin, so in other words, somebody could start Saturday night, logically, go till dawn the next day. At dawn, you're going to quit because it's not going to work anymore, and then resume on Sunday at dark. And so it's not just a question. The old bill was, you could keep on doing it on Saturday, and this is an expansion. And the only concern I have, I voted for Sunday hunting, and I'm fine with that. The problem, as you know from hearing other bills, my problem is dogs. and the noise they make, the intrusions they make on private property. And while I think the raccoon hunters are undoubtedly better behaved than many of these hunt clubs that chase deer with dogs. So if you're hunting at night, and are these dogs typically collared?
Yes, these dogs are expensive, Mr. Chairman. These dogs are expensive. People have invested in them, and they take care of them.
Further question, Mr. Chairman. And so if a raccoon, you're hunting on property that you're authorized to hunt, and next thing you know, the dogs are over the property line, and you are not able to hunt there because it's trespass by hunting is Class 3 felony, which means at that point in time, do you have to drop your weapon and go retrieve your dogs? Because you couldn't, if you had your weapon on you, you'd be assumed to be hunting. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, I would say that if you had your weapon on you, and if you had your headlamp on you, and if you had your other apparatuses to hunt during the dark, that you would be presumed to be hunting, yes.
And with the dogs, are the dogs at this point in time, would take it into Sunday night where dogs could be inadvertently going across people's property, barking and creating noise and that kind of thing. So essentially, like I said, I didn't have a problem with Sunday hunting, individuals out doing that, but now we're expanding the amount of time that people can have dogs that trespassing on people's property, but that you have the right to retrieve. So that's a very confusing point of law, but it's making it more difficult for landowners to enjoy the peace and tranquility of their property. Would you agree?
Mr. Chairman, I would not agree. I would not agree with that presumption that it's making landowners enjoyment of the ownership of their property more difficult. I believe that certainly people that I know that ask to raccoon hunt on people's land, they're very happy to let them do it because the raccoons are a problem, okay? These are not like the beautiful deer that you see out in the field that everybody wants to look at. I mean, these animals are, they're more like vermin, okay? They're pests, and people like to see their numbers diminished.
Okay. All right, we have another speaker here? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Champer of the Virginia Bicycling Federation, and we want to oppose this. And I certainly appreciate wanting to get rid of pests and respect that. I did want to point out, though, I mean, besides a bike rider, I'm a hiker, a backpacker, I canoe and kayak. And I tell you, right now, I pulled the latest figures from the Virginia Outdoor Demand, and I think, Senator McClellan, you hit right on the point that suddenly you're out 7 days a week. And right now, based on the latest survey from the state, hunters compose about 12.6% of the state population. But in terms of percentage households that are doing outdoor activities, we've got 50% that are visiting natural areas, 24% hiking and backpacking, 24% that are out fishing, 24% camping. So we have 12% of the population getting 7 days of usage during hunting season. And I tell you, I don't backpack at all during hunting season because I'm afraid I'm going to get shot. And I like peace and quiet and tranquility, and I don't want to go out and have to listen to somebody out there hunting all the time. I think the solution here is get all these guys to go hunting for raccoon on Friday night, and we don't have to worry about it. Let other people use the woods on Saturday. But Senator McClellan, I think you bring the concern that I have. Let's be fair about it. We're seeing a lot of people that are using the outdoors. Let's give people an excuse to go out and enjoy it, but let's be safe. I don't want to have to worry that a rogue hunter is going to go out and shoot me. And I think there are a lot of people. I've worked with the equestrians, with some of the other outdoor organizations, and I think, in fairness, let's 6 days a week, I think, is reasonable. Let's have 1 day of peace, quiet, and tranquility. Give all the animals a day off, and let's enjoy the great outdoors. Thanks.
Thank you. Other speakers? All right, what's the pleasure of the committee? Or do you have anything further to say, Senator Chapin? Or are you not ready?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. I just, I'm not aware that hikers and backpackers and bicyclists use the outdoors after dark at the hours. I don't think the usage would coincide with what's contemplated here.
Committee. Motion properly supported to report the bill. That is the amendment nature substitute for Senate Bill 375. Clerk calls the roll.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Informed that clears the docket. With no further business, committee will rise.